Welcome, folks, to this weekly webinar, JMC by the Numbers. My name's Jake Vanskoy, your host today. I'm an educator, former educator in the state of Iowa, in Eastern Iowa. Worked at a small school as a high school English teacher, turned instructional coach, turned tech integrationist. Been working with JMC as the head of training now for about 3 years full time. And I am happy to be joined today by Greg Appleby and Brian Wall. Greg Appleby, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Sure, Jake. Greg Appleby here from North Central Nebraska. I'm a retired public school administrator in Nebraska. Worked for 34 years as a teacher, coach, an athletic director, and a principal. And I've been working for JMC for about a year and a half now as a client service specialist. I really enjoy helping all of our clients in Nebraska and being part of the JMC team.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
My name is Brian Wall, and if you took everything Greg just said and changed Nebraska to Iowa, you would pretty much have me. 34 years in education as a high school math teacher first, and then as a middle school and high school principal. I guess I never wore the AD hat during my time, but retired here a year and a half ago from a small district here in Western Iowa and joined the JMC team, same time Greg did, and have enjoyed my time working with schools as well.
You do some basketball officiating though, right, Brian? Does Greg have that on his resume?
I do not have any varsity officiating, just a little bit of junior high and JV, although my daughter is one of the top officials in the state of Nebraska and has done a lot of state championships here in Nebraska.
Oh, that's awesome. Brian, you ever been to a state championship?
I am strictly sub-varsity, man.
Well, that's where it's at as far as officiating is concerned. So thank you two gentlemen for joining us today and adding your insights. Today we're learning a little bit about JMC as a whole and what this program can do to help your school thrive. So today we're going to learn what makes JMC special, like our training team of 20+ ex-teachers, coaches, and front desk administrators from across the Midwest who know what student success looks and feels like. We'll also cover a few tools, but really this webinar is meant to show the beauty of a JMC partnership, from flexible training options to same-day support and friendly site visits. Jumping right in here to 20+ ex-teachers, coaches, and front desk admins from across the Midwest. Back in the 1970s, our founder, John McElmurray, wasn't thinking about starting a software company. His focus was on continuing his decades-long career teaching high schoolers the ins and outs of math. An interest in computers and a passion for helping others spurred John to build a simple program to automate a tedious front office task. That's John right there helping a couple students with those fantastic pants. The reason I joined JMC was because of the pants. They issue those to us. JMC started out in John's basement. So it wasn't long before his family started helping with the business. Today, his son, CEO Bill McElmurray, is just one of the people who makes JMC feel like one big family as we continue to embody John's can-do spirit and singular dedication to schools. And I can vouch for this. This is very much a family-oriented organization. Nearly everyone on the JMC team knows education, not just because we were all students, but because we were teachers or staff. We lived in the classroom. It's why we relate so well to our customers. So jumping into the 25+ modules and apps for you to choose from, all developed in-house. Those of you that are viewing this that are JMC clients already, we're getting close to move up season where you move your software up from the 2024-2025 school year into the 25-26 school year. A good thing to keep in mind would be, do I have any additions that I would like to add to the software? So those of you who are not JMC users, you can see what we have to offer aside from all of the educational experience that we have. So our system is modular. If you think building blocks, so we can build the perfect one for your team and budget. So maybe your school just needs the essentials like attendance, scheduling, and grading, or maybe you require tools for everyone from teachers and coaches to lunch service professionals. Regardless, JMC has you covered. So building your JMC toolkit to your heart's desire and budget with a few of our top tools. We're going to talk about a few of our top tools that several of our districts make use of already. The first being error-free state reporting. So accurate, compliant state reporting is key to securing government funding for your school district. At JMC, we pride ourselves on staying up to date with state reporting requirements. Our state reporting module assists schools in sharing data with state agencies in Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Nebraska, along with other states that utilize the Ed5 portal. So Greg Appleby, as an administrator, I'm sure you've had your hands dirtied by state reporting duties in your districts. Can you care to talk about your experience with JMC and state reporting?
Yeah, Jake, JMC has great tools for state reporting across all of our states. And of course, I'm familiar with the Nebraska module. And as your screen shows there, we've got those tabs across the top. And as long as you can work across the tabs from left to right and then work down each one of those check boxes, when you do that, it sends all of that information into the state, as well as a nightly submission for things like attendance and so forth. It really makes state reporting go smoothly. If you have an error, it'll pop up and tell you, and then you can go in and fix that error and rerun the report. So I know schools are really enjoying it. We have a new Nebraska school this year that did their first fall reporting, and it really went smoothly, and they enjoyed the process of how to do that state reporting with Nebraska. And then the number one thing, if you do have problems that you run into, we've got a great team of support people that are there to answer your questions and help get you on the right path.
That's great. Absolutely. Brian, do you have anything that you would like to add from your experiences with state reporting in Iowa?
As an administrator, I for better or for worse, I kind of treated state reporting like a necessary evil. So I always appreciated how simple JMC made that process. Iowa was not an Ed5 state, so we didn't have the same tabs and tables, but it was a very straightforward process, particularly coming from a small school where there wasn't somebody dedicated to just handling all those reports. A lot of that fell on our administration or other front office people. And it was always very responsive. And in Iowa, the different school information systems have to be certified by the state of Iowa, and consistently JMC is the first system out there that gets certified every year.
Thank you very much. And, the one thing that I would add is, your ability to share information with any agency, whether it's a state agency or an integration, is really only as good as the data that's entered into the system. And I think what sets JMC apart from many other student information systems is that support that Greg mentioned and Brian both mentioned there. Is, it might not be apparent exactly what the state is asking for. If you reach out to our support, somebody is going to get back to you within the day, usually within a few hours, to help you out with your data entry. We have extensive training that shows you exactly what data needs to be entered and where it needs to be entered in the system in order to be shared with the state. And there might be some misconceptions out there regarding state reporting and exactly what it is and how it all works. You've got your student information system, which is essentially your interface with the data. So you enter the data according to our easy to use interface. And then we pass the certification process, and whatever state we are working with, whether it be Iowa or Nebraska, Wisconsin, or any of these other Ed5 states, Minnesota especially. And once you're certified as a vendor, which JMC is among the first certified in many of these states, you have the ability to share your data. It just means your data is going to be in the same language that the state needs to receive it. So JMC is among a leader in state reporting, preparing software for state reporting, and then also training and instructing users with how to use their software for state reporting. So Moving on to top tool number 2, crystal clear grading with standards and benchmarks. So give schools an assessment option that's customized to their needs. Use the module to set locally defined standards and benchmarks, create and record formative assessments, link assignments to benchmarks to calculate results, and generate standards and benchmarks report cards. Now, Brian, actually how I met Brian Wall and how I began working with Brian Wall was in his work with standard-based education in his school. Brian, can you speak to how JMC assisted your school's initiative for going down the standard-based grading rabbit hole, if you will?
Yeah, absolutely, Jake. You know, that's a big step for a school to take, and a big ask of of the teachers at that school. And I know as my school began down that path, the topic that came up early and often is, what is the grade book going to look like? Because it's a different way of thinking about grading. And that was really important to our teachers, that they could have confidence that they were going to have a grade book within JMC that would meet the needs of standard-based grading. So I think that was something that really advanced our progress towards ultimately getting to standard-based grading, was the work that we were able to do with JMC, with Jake and his team, to help our teachers understand what that grade book was going to look like, and to help them feel confident that JMC had a grade book that would allow them to implement this grading initiative in a successful manner.
Yeah, and I would add to that, standard-based grading was really my entry point into JMC. And for those of you that have been in education the last 10 or 15 years, this is has been a growing topic in many of the states. And I know as a teacher, I started out very much traditional. Kind of the way that I was taught and assessed was the way that I taught and I assessed early in my career. And my thinking had been challenged by an administrator, much like Brian Wall here, about best practices in grading. And really what came from that was, is my style of teaching and assessment yielding the best results for my students? And I had to do a long, hard look in the mirror before I adapted my teaching style and my assessment and grading practices to meet the needs of my kids. And I think a lot of schools around the country have transitioned to a more standard-based approach in education because they've identified this as the best move for their kids. And it was right around that time, as I was making this transition, that I started looking into some of the tools that JMC had to offer. And I started working very closely with the development team, who is very responsive to our needs. And we're able to develop a product that that I work with every day. And our competency-based grading platform which is shown here in this screenshot, is one of those pieces that defines our balanced assessment system. Everything from the endpoint, the standard-based assessments, whether you're working with ISASP or your state standardized assessments and working with ISASP scores or SAT, ACT scores, and pulling those results into JMC so you can analyze formative data from your teachers, all the way down to the grade books and how teachers interact with grade books and how students receive feedback from grade books. All of these things have been built into the software. And one of my favorite things to do, I think, speaking for Brian, possibly one of Brian's favorite things to do with JMC, is getting to work with these schools as they implement their standard-based grading practices. And, everybody kind of comes at this at a different entry point. Some teachers are very well versed in the practice, and some teachers are kind of dipping their toe in the water for the first time. And it's fun to have conversations with those teachers wherever they are in their implementation to kind of guide them not only through the what buttons to push in the software to make the thing work, but also a little bit of the why and the philosophy behind standard-based grading and how to implement some of these tools. So I've very much enjoyed working with a lot of the schools that I've had the opportunity to work with. And I've enjoyed working with Brian and his team as they went down the standard-based grading rabbit hole, and we'll continue to do so.
I think, Jake, the fact that it's not JMC doesn't force you into a cookie cutter approach to grading. They really listen to what you want to do and help you work with the tools that exist within JMC to do that grading in the way that you really want to do it.
Absolutely. And the ability to create your own database of standards. Several schools are, utilizing what we call priority standards, which is, it's taking those big national standards or the state standards and skinning them down into teacher friendly, student friendly, family friendly language that everybody can understand and make use of. JMC is a platform that allows you to get those standards, the standards that are focused upon by your school into the system. So whether you're building a standard-based report card, or if you are converting standard referenced results to a course grade, similar to how you would do in like a standard reference scoring situation, we've got you covered. Tool number 3, switching gears completely, the flexible messaging tools with the Message Center. Our fully integrated voice, email, and text messaging module. Not only can you communicate with parents and students effortlessly, but you can contact specific groups by grade level, activity, course, and even bus number. Families can even choose their preferred language for receiving school communications. So, Brian, Greg, who wants to kick us off with your experience with the Message Center and JMC?
I can kick off there, Jake. The Message Center in JMC is just an outstanding tool that administrators and office personnel can use to communicate with everyone in the district. Parents, guardians, students. Does a great job of communicating things that are going on in your schedule, changes in your schedule. And we know in this day and age, communication is so important. Everyone wants the message right away. And again, JMC is very flexible and adaptable in how you can send out messages. You can select them, students by grade, by advisor, by courses, by activities, by bus routes. Just, a couple of examples I know. Give the example of a bus route where you have your bus routes numbered, and bus route number 3 has a flat tire. Well, everyone on that bus route's, expecting their kids home. You can send a message out to just those people that are on bus 3 that, maybe we had a flat tire. And so the buses are going to be delayed for 35 minutes. And parents really appreciate that. And, one other example we sent a group of 5th and 6th graders to the Henry Dorley Zoo in Omaha a couple of years ago. And they were at a spring Nebraska day, and sometimes storms pop up, and it was a line of strong storms. We could communicate with the 5th and 6th grade parents that instead of going our normal way home, they were going to go north to Sioux City to avoid the storms. It was going to take a little bit longer. We told them they were going to eat in Sioux City to wait out the storm so they can pass through and then head back. But it really allowed us to provide great communication to our parents, and they really appreciate that and really appreciate the job that the school does, but the school's doing it because of the tools that JMC gives it.
A couple of things that I appreciated about the Message Center. One is the logging feature that's available within it. All the messages that you send out through the JMC system are logged. You can go back and verify that messages did indeed go out. You can review the content of those messages. And the fact that the Message Center is also built into the teacher software as well. So your teachers can utilize it as a messaging system as well. And again, all of those messages are logged. We live in a day and age when messaging between teachers and students often comes under scrutiny. And it's just that added layer of security, knowing that any message that teachers send out to either groups of students or even individual students, those are being logged into your system for review.
I will add, along with the Message Center, we have a brand new module, Community Messenger, which is designed to expand your communication with a broader school community. So not only does the Message Center work for internal communication as far as your families, your immediate families of your students, but our Community Messenger allows you to broaden your message to that broader school community. So if you have things like bond issues that your school would like to pass, you can raise awareness using the community messenger. You know, all sorts of applications, and we've recently done a few webinars on the community messenger. So if you're interested, I would recommend checking those out. And it's a standalone product. So even if you aren't a JMC user for your student information system, if you're a business within a small school, or I'm sorry, not a small school, within a community, you can absolutely use the messaging platform, the community messenger, to send messages. One JMC user, Dixie Pingle from Underwood, says, I do everything on JMC. Our school is small, so secretaries do it all: attendance, lunch, registration, state reporting, discipline, notifying parents, and so on. Without JMC, any one of these things would consume my time. I cannot imagine a day without JMC. Other schools just need an app or two. We support that too. Apps to meet your needs. As an administrator, I'm particularly grateful for the apps. The administrative and coaches apps are an easy way to keep up to date with anything from attendance to messaging. That's Carrie Johnson, principal at Parkers Prairie High School in Minnesota. What you see pictured here is the coaches app, actually. As a coach, I coached high school baseball, pretty much every sport actually, but coached high school baseball for about 20 years. And while I was working in the school, it was very easy for me to access student information through JMC. But then when I stopped working through the school as a teacher, my access didn't necessarily stop. You know, as a coach, I was able to grab that coaches app, and I could still access the students and some selected student data that I would need, including messaging that allowed me to communicate with my families and my players efficiently and ethically. So I am grateful for the app as well. So floor is yours. Does anybody have any questions? Or Brian, Greg, do you have anything that you'd like to add about any of those applications? I know I mentioned the coaches app, but we also have an admin app and a family app as well.
Yeah, Jake, I use the admin app a lot. Just it's nice having that with you when you're out of your office, you know, in the hallways or at recess on the playground. We had another building that was about 100 yards away, and I was able to use that. If there was an emergency, I could get the student's name, contact information, if I had to contact parents. So it's just really handy, especially in this day and age, to have all of the JMC tools and information right there with you on your phone.
Likewise, on the family side, our family app has been a great tool for parents and guardians. You know, we all live on our phones now, and it just made it so much easier for parents and guardians to stay in contact with what's going on with their students at school, whether that be academics or their lunch account balance, all of that handled very easily from our family app.
I know I use our family app to make payments into my kids' lunch accounts all the time. So I can save my credit card information right there on my phone. It literally takes me minutes. I think of the olden days back when you'd have to write a check and put it in your kid's backpack and then hope against hope that somehow it made its way to the front desk at the school. Gone are those days, and in favor of a much more efficient system, I think we would say. So on to unlimited complimentary training and support from our experts. So we get that running a school district is expensive, and that's why that's why we give all JMC clients access to everything they need to be successful for free. With unlimited access to 6+ training options to meet each team member's preferred learning style. We've got a new user playlist on YouTube with 24+ videos for all modules, a treasure trove of JMC how-to articles on our JMC Help Center, in-person and virtual trainings, including several state reporting training sessions to ensure required submissions go off without a glitch, Q&As to answer your most burning questions. We've got client services specialists. Our CSS team is comprised of principals, office folks, and superintendents who have a passion for helping users get the most out of their JMC software. You can reach out to your CSS for tech support questions, to facilitate training opportunities, or for any help you need with JMC. You guessed it, there's no additional cost for reaching out to your CSS. Now, Brian, you are the head of our CSS program. Do you have anything that you would like to mention about our CSS program, or becoming a client services specialist by chance?
Our goal is to have a client services specialist assigned as an ambassador to each of our JMC using schools. We're not quite 100% to that goal yet, but most schools have somebody that is a contact for them. And since we are always on the search for more client services specialists, if you or someone you know is maybe looking at retirement here in the near future, it's a great part-time gig for somebody who was in education, a JMC user, and is looking for something that is part-time with a lot of flexibility to do in their retirement, like Greg and I are doing.
Yeah, I can speak briefly to the training aspect of this as well. I started out as a CSS because I was in my district helping a lot of my teachers and front office staff with things like standard-based grading and just some basic processes in JMC. And that's really kind of what started myself in JMC as a CSS, and progressed to the training program, where we do the things that were mentioned. We create these webinars and videos to help folks along in their use of JMC as a software, along with all of our articles. I spend a great portion of my day, and all of our training staff spends a great portion of their day emailing back and forth, answering questions from users, helping new users understand basic processes. And we know that other student information systems, that level of support does not necessarily come to everybody in your district. But with JMC, anybody who's in your district can reach out to any one of our training resources. So if you had a tech support question, if you had a training need, if you just wanted to bounce some ideas off of a fellow educator that is familiar with the JMC suite of tools, it's something that is available to you for free. It's a phone call or an email away, and we get back to folks within definitely within 24 hours, and oftentimes within just a couple hours. So something that we do extremely well at JMC is connect with our users through, whether it be through CSS, our training tools, or our support tools. And that, folks, is why we're trusted by 1,000 plus schools and districts across the Midwest. That's right, over 1,000 schools, big and small, from districts to dioceses, have chosen us as their software partner because we have the best team, the tools, and training they need to be successful. And many have been with us for decades. Like Heidi Thorson, tech director at Warren Alvarado Oslo district in Minnesota. I've been in the education technology field since 1995 and can honestly say JMC has been the best student information system to work with. Their training and technical support are superior to their competitors. Carl Menk from Tri-City United says, I highly recommend JMC to any school district. Their commitment to excellence in product growth and customer service has kept our school district a JMC customer for over 37 years. If you see me, I'm often rocking the Tri-City United baseball hat. So even though I'm quite a ways away from Tri-City United, I've never actually seen them play baseball. I've been to their school for an in-person training. I saw their baseball hat. I had to have it. So Brian, Greg, anything that you'd like to add? Or do we have any questions or comments from anybody that's been coming in? If I can get back to the proper slide.
Not seeing anything in our questions at this time.
How long has your districts or the districts that you've been a part of, Brian, been a JMC user?
Well, you're taxing my memory here, Jake, a little bit. I believe when I was a teacher, my first district in the early 90s, we began using JMC at that district and continued to use it. I eventually became principal there, then moved to the neighboring district, and they were not a JMC school, but we switched after the first year. So I would say that the districts I've been involved with have been with JMC for over 20 and in some case over 30 years.
Yeah, Jake, and I've been with used JMC for about 10 years. About 10 years ago, we were looking for a new student information system. Went to a sales presentation that Paul was putting on. Thought that JMC really met the needs of my small district at that time. And then about 4 to 5 years ago, our small district consolidated with two other districts into a larger school district, and we compared different student information systems and really liked the things that JMC offered and felt that it fit our needs. So we chose JMC for our new school district, and it's working very well, and they're loving it.
I remember when I started teaching at East Buchanan, this would have been in 2004. They had JMC as their student information system. And this was before the web-based program. This was still relatively early days of the internet. And the folks that have been working with JMC for a long time are developers, which we've got several developers that have been on staff since virtually the beginning of JMC. Greg Gilman was one of those developers who's a former teacher turned software developer. He's been with JMC for 30 plus years. And they used to send their program out through floppy disks. So 3x5 floppy disks that they would attach stickies to and mail out to the schools. It was very much a word of mouth company back then. And that was kind of where my introduction to JMC. I remember our tech director coming around to our old Macintosh computers and plugging in the application, downloading the software to our computers. Since then, I've seen the product go into or turn into a web-based platform. So all of the updates are handled in-house and are sent out via the internet to all of our users. So, how far this company has come in the last, since the early 80s, I guess, all the way since, you could say that the dawn of widespread use of technology. I'm thinking old Control Open Apple reset days here, and the dates that predate Oregon Trail. We've been around for that long, and will continue to be around. So 100% success rate of onboarding and training means your team won't skip a beat. So JMC works closely with new clients to map out a custom onboarding plan, including a data migration and training schedule, taking district, school, and building level needs into consideration so that no detail or team member gets lost in the shuffle. By capping how many schools, districts, and dioceses we take on each year, we're able to provide the one-to-one customer care that our clients count on us for and deserve. So Greg, I know you mentioned that within the last 10 years or so, you've made the decision to switch to JMC. Briefly, can you talk a little bit about how that transition went for you and for your school district, and how you were able to onboard the 3 different districts as your school consolidated?
It really went pretty smoothly. When we were a smaller district, we didn't have as many staff, so that really went smooth the first time. And then when we came together with 3 different districts, we had to do the training. But the great thing about JMC is there's just so many ways to get information, from the JMC training website on YouTube, our site there, to we would set up times with part of training at JMC to maybe train some new administrators or some new teachers. If we have questions, we know that we can go to the help center. We can use the in-house widget. There's just tons of ways to get information to your staff. So in both cases, it really went smoothly.
Yeah, I would say our new school onboarding season, if you will think of it that way, lasts about half the year. I would say starts in February, usually in February or January. And then we begin slowly migrating data and, introducing kind of some of the key stakeholders, administrators, technology coordinators with the process. And it progresses throughout the summer. You know, usually your teachers and your front office staff are busy wrapping up the previous school year. So we usually start our training process for those folks in May, June, July, August over the summer to start your school year. We'll have an in-person training with your whole staff, your front office staff. We'll have a combination of in-person and remote trainings with any member of your staff to help in the onboarding of the various processes that you might be a part of, whether it be your food service program or your scheduling, your report card needs, things of that nature. We usually wrap up with our schools, with our onboarding process sometime in October and November, and start slowly transitioning them over to our regular channels of support. So it's an ease. I would say it's an eased in transition in which we're available pretty much all the time. I mean, we field questions daily from new users, and our goal is to make sure that you feel comfortable with the software. Above all else, we want to see your school succeed, and we view a solid use of your student information system is a contributing factor to your school's overall success through eased communication, whether it be to your parents, to your families, to your students, to each other, inter-office communication, office to teacher communication. All of those are pillars in a fully functioning school district, and that's what we're here to foster for you. So with that, I'd like to thank Brian and Greg for their contributions, and I'll take you to some JMC news and upcoming events. Just a few things to point out. If you're out and about, headed to MSBA Leadership Conference in Minnesota on the 16th of January, or the Wisconsin State Education Convention on the 22nd of January, let's catch up. Either myself or Paul will be manning our JMC booth, and we would love to chat with you one-on-one. If you have any specific things that you would like to discuss during our one-to-one session, please give us a heads up at sales@jmcinc.com. If you're seeing this for the first time and are interested in learning more about JMC, also contact sales@jmcinc.com and we can set up a sales demo for you. For Brian Wall and Greg Appleby, I'm Jake Vanskoy, thanking you for joining us for this webinar, and we will catch you on the flip side.